Are you a woman standing at a crossroads, eager for change? It's time to connect with your authentic and empowered self at Boss Leap. Join Dr. Sylvia Morris and Dr. Angela Walker in this empowering community where real-life stories of courageous and talented women inspire and motivate. Engage in honest conversations that foster well-being, drawing from our own journeys. Let us guide you toward profound growth and transformation in both your personal and professional life. Here are your hosts, Dr. Sylvia Morris and Dr. Angela Walker.
So how did we come to this moment and having a podcast called Boss Leap?
So I think it's just all been really organic, right? We
Absolutely
met in the 90s. We are med school buddies and have been friends since that time. We started a book 10 years ago, and that came to fruition, the game plan. And really, actually, before the book was finally published, we started talking about podcasting. And I think it came, just organically from our love of talking about issues, women's stories, things that we love to listen to, whether it be in the news or television and podcasting, and things that we would love to share or that we would love to be a part of sharing, right? Other people's stories. So that was 4 years ago, 2020, when we look at notes of
my goodness,
many
yes.
notes of podcasting. And finally, after the book was published, and this year celebrating the 1 year anniversary, we finally got it together and said, hey, let's do this.
Absolutely. And certainly during the pandemic, although we were busy working, there was sort of a moment to kind of figure out, well, how do we want to move forward and proceed? And luckily, the book, we were able to self-publish it, I guess, a year ago now, but it came after about a decade of hard work. And we started, from my recollection, we started thinking about the things that we wish were out in the public sphere around women, definitely career women, and just stories that are not told. So you don't hear about women physicians or professionals who are doing interesting things and who have made pivots and leaps in their career, both professionally and personally. So we wanted to add our voice and elevate stories for women who are just doing phenomenal things and who are making that boss leap.
Absolutely. And I'm so grateful that we actually have been able to start. So along this journey, any words of wisdom or advice when we're moving forward in this process?
I think we just have to continue to be authentic. And you helped me to remember to not let the perfect be the enemy of the good, because I'm a planner. I want to write it out and outline it and line everything up, and then I want to get started. But you helped me to remember to take that leap, and we know that everything will work out for the best, for our greatest and highest good in the end. What about you? Any thoughts on as we embark on this endeavor?
Yeah, I think exactly what you said. Over years, and certainly over the last several years, making career pivot, it has become very apparent that cannot wait for as you said, the perfect. But that's how we are wired, and that many women that are career oriented, and certainly in our career medicine, we tend to want all the facts first, which is what you would want, taking care of a patient. But there are times where you have to move with the facts that you have in order to make a change in someone else's life. And so we certainly are at that point in our careers where we know we have a lot of knowledge, we have a lot of experience, and we certainly over the years have talked to so many women that have stories that have inspired us in all different facets, right, of our life. And what better way to share that than have a podcast? So I think this will be fun. I think it will, obviously continue our friendship, working together. I've learned that, we work well together, kind of a yin and yang. You are very much organized, and that helps me. and but we're both very inspired to do well for others. So I think this will be a fun journey.
I think so too. I can't wait for us to have really great conversations. We have a list of potential guests lined up. And for those who are listening, don't be surprised if perhaps you too may be one of those guests. So please answer our emails. We are ready to kind of take that leap as podcasters. So we are making the boss leap, and we hope that you enjoy and that you will buy our book, The Game Plan, A Woman's Guide to Becoming a Doctor and Living a Life in Medicine, available on Amazon, and subscribe to our podcast, Boss Leap.
Nicely said. I think you said it all.
I think so too. And is that a good enough teaser? We talked about why now. How do you define boss leap? Or are we going to get to that as we evolve in our podcast journey?
No, we can say it now, and then if we...
Okay. What can we find?
So boss leap came from many iterations of a title, right? So we feel like we want to empower those boss women, and we can put whatever word you want after boss. But those women that we know and those that we don't know that have just made really powerful, courageous moves in their life, family life, career life, that have propelled them forward. And we know that as fellow sisters, we take inspiration in our lives to do some of the same things. So being a boss is not necessarily being over someone, but just being courageous enough to make those moves in your life that will continue to propel you forward and help you fulfill your purpose. Leap is the other part of actually putting the moves in place to put that courage into action, right? Because you can have all the courage that you want, but unless you actually move upon it, unless you actually take the steps and leap out there on faith, then they tend to be nothing but dreams that are never fulfilled. So I think boss leap, Sylvia, you had the leap and I had the boss, and it just, in the midst of throwing out probably hundreds of titles, that was the one that we landed on, and it just has has I think impacted us both, and feel like it's a good synopsis of what we want to share and how we want to share other women's stories of making their own boss leap.
Definitely. And it's certainly, I think, where we are in our lives. When we think about boss leap, I think of boss. And when people say, you're not the boss of me, but I'm the boss of me, meaning I personally determine how I move forward in life. And you're so right when we talk about that. If you were just talking about it or planning it or saying we're going to do X, Y, or Z, but there's no intentionality behind that. So there's no faith without action or faith without works. So we need to figure out, well, how are we going to move forward and be intentional and live our best lives? And the leaping, I had we'll call her a career coach. And the word for this year for me for 2024 was leaping. And I just sort of wrote it down, and we were kind of talking about it. I was like, oh, okay. And as we talked about the hundreds of names for our podcast, I looked down on a sticky note. I like sticky notes. They're all over my desk area. The word leaping. And you'd sent something about boss, and I can't remember. And then we just added leaping and leap, and it organically came together. So I was super excited about boss leap, and it certainly has stuck. And I also think of lily pads. One of hopefully our future guests, Terry Retta, Dr. Retta, she talked about each one of my career moves as going from a lily pad to a lily pad. So the frog leaps from one lily pad to the next, and you leave that other lily pad behind, right? Because it no longer serves you. That's where you were, and you're moving on to the next. and the frog doesn't stay rooted to one lily pad. He, she, they moves from lily pad to lily pad. So we are leaping forward. So that's how I think of boss leap.
So interesting. When we start talking, you just learn, right? I didn't know that part of it. And I'm just the imagery in my head right now is beautiful. Just, going from one station to the next. It doesn't mean where you left was anything bad or didn't serve you well, but it's time to move on to the next, the next station, the next lily pad. And I think that's what we're doing in our lives and careers. And hopefully, everybody hopes to leave maybe not everybody, but I think most of us in the world want to leave a positive impact on others. And I strongly feel like this format will help us to do that and bring us fulfillment and joy at the same time. So we'll make that boss leap together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I guess we have told everyone how we got to Boss Leap, and we are hopeful and prayerful that everyone tunes in to Boss Leap. And we're going to say thank you in advance for taking the leap with us.
Absolutely. And as you said, I looked at our notes from the very beginning. We're going to wish that everyone will say to themselves, may you be well, and say to others, may you be well. And that's our wish for all of those that are listening. May you be well.
May you be well. Absolutely. Fantastic. All right. Well, Angela, and we have to figure out how we're going to address each other.
Yeah.
Is it Dr. Walker? Is it Angela? They can edit this part out. But all right, Angela, may you be well until the next time we speak.
May you be well, Sylvia.
That's a wrap on another episode of Boss Leap. May this conversation enlighten your path toward personal growth and professional empowerment. For more thought-provoking and eye-opening discussions like this one, head to our website at bossleappodcast.com. Always remember to celebrate your wins and trust yourself. A positive mindset can push you out of your comfort zone and into far greater heights. Until next time, may you be well.
Before we go, there's one more thing the lawyers have asked us to include. It's the legal language, and you know how doctors love lawyers. This podcast is presented only for educational and entertainment purposes. Although we are doctors, on this show, we are just your friends. This podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of your physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professionals. Understood? Awesome. We'll see you in the next episode.